The topic of this lecture is predefined functions. Processing enables you to create many things, such as create drawings, resize the screen, by simply calling or invoking these predefined functions. The goal of this lecture is to discuss the mechanics behind these existing predefined functions. So if you recall from the last lecture, where we gave a demo of the processing development environment, or also known as PDE. So let me just bring that up. So I'm sure everybody has, if you're watching this video, hopefully you have already downloaded this and you're running it on your machine. Whether you have processing 2 or 3 doesn't really matter. Processing 3 just came out. I'm still running processing 2. They all work pretty much the same. So let's invoke, or let's call a predefined function. It's called, let's do ellipse. So you can kind of see this is a nice feature of in the PDE. So when I type ellipse, you can kind of see the color changing. So that's that tells you that you're writing something that the PDE recognizes. So I'm going to give the X and Y coordinates. I'm going to give the size of my ellipse. So I'm telling the IDE that I want it to draw an ellipse for me, and I say run. Might take about a second, and a small window comes up, and it's really tiny. Let me try to, and it is up here. Okay, so if you go to processing.org, so if you simply go to processing.org, and on processing.org, if you go to references, you're going to see a whole lot of references, a whole lot of these predefined functions. So for example, under 2D primitive, you have arc, which allows you to draw an arc, ellipse, if you just want to draw a line, a point. So if you go to these references, anything you want to draw, you go up to it and you click on it. It tells you, gives you examples, it tells you what each thing is. So whatever you want to draw, just go to the reference and try to get the predefined function that it already has. That's basically all we need to know, except that we are engineers. We're basically meant to know how everything works inside and out. So I want to give a bit of an introduction and sort of put some meaning behind how these predefined functions work, even though their functionality is quite simple. So what is a function? A function is a small unit of code that can be used repetitively and can be called like a black box. A function is, so basically what it is that a function, as far as we know, is a black box as such, and it's going to have some inputs to it, and it's going to have, so it's going to have inputs, and it's going to have an output. So for example, function ellipse is going to have 4 inputs. So let me just change the color here. It's going to have inputs, and what is the output is what it draws on the screen, right? So so input is going to be X coordinate, Y coordinate of the center, and the sizes. So I'm just going to put A and B, the sizes of the ellipse. which you have to get from the reference page. So any function that you want to know how it works, you have to go to that reference page and figure out how it works. Some other functions that we also mentioned in the video about the intro to processing was the size function. So if you have, for example, if I say size now equal to 500, and I'll give it 500 and 500, now that's going to be the new size of my window. So if I run this now all of a sudden I have a much bigger window than before. And if I modify this, let's say 100 and 100, and you can kind of see this moving along a little bit. Another function is a print function. So a print function would print sort of a line to print whatever you want to the console down here. So for example, if I said print hello world, and notice whatever I put in my print function has to be in double quotations. If I try to run this, now I see hello world printed down there. We're going to be talking about the console and the print function and println function and the variations of them a bit later. But the point is that's how these functions work. So function is really useful because you could call it at any instance that you want it. We don't really care about what's in the function. You just call it. So if you don't know how this ellipse is being created, you just know that you need to call the function ellipse, meaning basically write its name and give it the input that it requires. And when you run your program, it draws an ellipse for you. The function rect does the same thing for a rectangle. So how do you call a function? You simply call a function by its name. So when you call a function by its name and give it the input that it requires, it does what you ask of it, what it promises to do. So for example, function size, when you call function size and you give it the two inputs that it requires, it's going to draw, it's going to change the size of the screen for you. So think of this as a thermostat, basically. So you don't really know how a thermostat works, but you know that if you change the degree, it's going to make the room hotter or colder for you. So it's predefined functions work the same. In the next lectures, we're going to talk about how to use these predefined functions to make more complicated drawings, and also we're going to talk about how to write our own functions in a little bit. Thank you.